What is good? We're back. We got route-based heroes. We're moving it back a day, getting a little more information for your pleasure. As always, Joseph, Quality Stats, joining us on the show today. How you doing, Joseph?
I'm doing great. It's another week of football. I mean, I just think that, we're hitting fall weather finally. Like I'm in the deep south over here, so getting to some nice fall weather finally. It feels great feeling the crisp air in the fall. So
it does. It really does. And as always, with the route-based heroes comes the PWOPR, which is, one of, if not the best, most predictive stat in all of football, coming right from the brain of Mr. Joseph himself. So let's jump into it this week. We've got a lot of repeat offenders coming in on week 7's route-based heroes. And this obviously stems from an article that you write for PFF. If you haven't checked that out, make sure you go check that out. But we got Chris Olave, who's been on here a bunch, Jeudy, who was on here last week for sure, Jameson Williams, who was on here last week for sure, Zay Flowers, I think he's made an appearance or two before. AJ Brown, I mean, it feels like there's an Eagle on here every week. And then Jakobi Meyers, which we've had Jakobi Meyers, and I think he was on here last week as well. And, Trey Tucker has been on here as well. And, those were some of the ones that really smashed was the Trey Tuckers and the Alec Pierces and kind of the low level, the Nailers, those guys have been not too many low level guys on here, all some pretty big names, and we've talked about this a few times before. So what does it mean that these guys are repeat offenders on this list right now? Some of them for multiple weeks and some of them just like 2 weeks in a row here.
Yeah, so PWOPR is a stat that I developed using proprietary PFF data, right? Using the best data on the planet. I basically predict whether a wide receiver should be getting a target or not and where they are on the field when that takes place, right? And combining those two things, we can create a target share, a predicted target share, and then a predicted air yard share. And then we can further combine those and create what I call PWOPR, right? Which is just a weighted opportunity rating based on the routes that you're running and if you are open when you're running those routes. Doing all the math and everything, this really is a phenomenal statistic. It has like the best stability, the best predictiveness out there. It beats any opportunity-based stat. It beats any non-opportunity-based stat. I can prove it. Like it is fantastic. I don't want to get too in the weeds. I know that a lot of people listening don't exactly want to hear all the numbers and everything, but it is phenomenally just the best stat that is out there. So far this season, it's already predicted breakouts like George Pickens. It's already predicted breakouts like Trey Tucker, and it's just fantastic, right? Like it is really good. And so what I do in this article is that I use PWOPR and I predict, well, how many fantasy points should you be scoring based off of your PWOPR, right? Based off of how you've been getting open on the field, how should you be scoring? And I compare that to how much you actually are scoring. And if there's a big difference there, we can say with pretty reasonable confidence that eventually your fantasy points are going to catch up to where your prediction should be. And that's because PWOPR is more stable than fantasy points. So week to week, PWOPR doesn't change that much, right? If you're good at PWOPR, you're going to be good at PWOPR next week. But that's not necessarily true about fantasy points. This is why everyone gets mad when your favorite player flops, right? Or your favorite, you bench a guy, and of course he's going to go for 30, right? And that's just because fantasy points is really volatile. But I bet their PWOPR was pretty similar on those weeks, right? And so if we can predict what your fantasy point should be, and then if you're lower than that expectation, eventually, assuming your PWOPR stays stable, which again it is very stable, your fantasy points will come up to meet that PWOPR. And so a lot of the times on lists like these, you're going to end up with players that are on worse teams or with quarterbacks that maybe can't fulfill their wide receiver needs, right? And so you end up with players like Jeudy, who he got a ton of targets last week, but only like 8 catchable targets, right? And he got 5 receptions, but I think he had 13 targets if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I believe 12 or 13.
Yeah, I think he had 13. And
they threw it 49 times.
Yeah, insanity. And only 8 of those were considered catchable, right? And that immediately takes 5 targets away from him effectively, but those are still opportunity that he received.
Correct.
And the basic idea is that when you're either getting that opportunity or getting predicted opportunity, and you aren't fulfilling that, eventually you will. Eventually those uncatchable targets will become catchable targets, right? Eventually you will be getting the targets you need, and you will score fantasy points. A lot of the time, players on this list will kind of rebound through a touchdown. That's the quickest way. That's the mathematically most efficient way to increase your fantasy points the quickest, right? And so that's what happens a lot. If you're on this list, you have about a 12% better chance of scoring a touchdown than another player of similar attributes to yourself, right?
Right.
So it's pretty good at touchdown prediction. It did a good job last week and the week before and the week before and the week before. I think eventually it'll there's going to be weeks where it doesn't do good, but it's been on kind of a hot streak at this point.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the basic idea, is that you predict fantasy points, and then if you have lower fantasy points than the prediction, we expect you to rebound. And bad offenses often cause repeat offenders, right? Because if you're getting a ton of targets, or if your quarterback's not seeing you, et cetera, AJ Brown's going to cry all day. You're going to keep showing up on this list. Every time AJ Brown cries, I bet he ends up on this list.
So pretty much all of these offenses are bad outside of the Jameson Williams ones. And we'll talk about Jameson in a second. Just going back to Jeudy, like, they've got a good matchup this week. So does it mean that since Jerry Jeudy commanded all those targets, he's been on the PWOPR thing, like that we should consider him a good wide receiver at this point?
Absolutely. I absolutely think that. I think that
there's a buy low maybe for Jerry Jeudy potentially here.
Yeah. Calvin Ridley was showing up on this list quite a lot last year, and then all of a sudden blew up for a while, right? Like he was everyone. I don't know if everyone remembers, like last year, like at the beginning of the year, it was like, man, Calvin Ridley, am I right? We're saying the same thing this year, but his PWOPR last year was really good. Like, he had like one of the best PWOPRs in the league, and eventually it started clicking.
It gets
right.
There.
And that's like, eventually, I can say with pretty good confidence that eventually these will click. It is a little bit more complicated when you're on a run first team, when you have a rookie quarterback that may or may not be good. Like, we still don't know, right? We're still early in his career. Like, when you have those things, it's like, it may take a little longer to click. Like, Dylan Gabriel just started his second game.
Right.
Like, it's just going to take a little bit longer for that to click. But once it does, watch out. Like, I think this could be a similar situation to what we saw with Calvin Ridley last year. In general, this is an offense that's just not going to score a lot of points. So it's like, you really need the volume to be there.
They haven't scored over 18 all season,
which is pretty rough. Right. and so you can say with pretty good confidence that, like, the touchdowns might not really get there as much as you need. So you need volume. Right. And you need more instances where Dylan Gabriel passes it 49 times.
Right.
For Jerry Jeudy to get there, but you just need more catchable targets. And as Dylan Gabriel gets better and things like that, we should see that start to happen.
I gave Jerry Jeudy last week out on the over, which I think was 38.5, and he did go over that. That was one of our Prophet X call outs there. So that hit. That was good. He was fine, got some volume, but I think this week versus the Dolphins, I think you could expect maybe even a bigger jump here. And I don't mind starting Jerry Jeudy with a little bit of confidence this week. And I don't mind maybe even trying to buy low on Jerry Jeudy a little bit.
Absolutely. Because he's so cheap. Like, he basically caught, like, 38 yards for an over under is nothing, right? Like, that's really low, especially for a wide receiver one in an offense. Right. And especially a wide receiver one that's been getting open as much as Jerry Jeudy has. It's just all the things just haven't quite clicked like they should be. Eventually they will, though, and you can say with a lot more confidence that Jerry Jeudy is a player that you should be starting more often than not.
Yeah. What's good? You know the phrase, the house always wins? Well, not anymore with our new sponsor, Prophet X. Prophet X, America's #1 sports prediction market, is a peer-to-peer sports prediction market where users play against each other instead of a sports book versus the house. You almost always get the best price in any spread, money line, total, and player prop, since you're playing against other people rather than the book. It looks just like a sports book, but with way better odds. So what are you waiting for? Go download the app and use promo code FFD to claim up to $200 in profit cash on all the plays you use in the first 30 days of playing on site. Link in the description. Now, Let's look at that Thursday night game. It's Monday right now when we're making this, so we don't have a lot of prop options, which is really where we've been making our bread and butter. But we got the Cincinnati Bengals at home versus the Steelers on a Thursday night. Last Thursday, we saw the Giants take care of business at home versus Philly. So let's ride that train on the home underdog on the short week, taking a little bit of that Joe Flacco magic and getting us a little dub here. Cincinnati Bengals +4 this week on your Monday night pick here. Peace. All right. We've talked about Chris Olave on this list a lot. We've talked about, maybe Spencer Rattler just isn't equipped enough to quite fulfill the destiny of what Chris Olave is this year, but still been fantasy wise, it's been solid every start. We just haven't seen like the crazy explosion. And with the amount of volume that he's getting, we should expect a little more. So, it's against, the skill level of potentially Spencer Rattler there. And I'm not saying Spencer Rattler can't keep getting better and be an okay quarterback here. He's good enough to get Chris Olave kind of where he needs to go for the most part. He's not a bust by any means, and he's very startable, but are you confident that you did at one point say that if you keep showing up on this list and don't produce, that it can be a bad thing, right?
Yeah, and Chris Olave is kind of weird because it hasn't really happened before that he has like the best PWOPR in the NFL. Like he has really good PWOPR. He is just dominating as far as getting open relative to the rest of his team. And the Saints / Spencer Rattler just haven't been able to fulfill his needs of being the wide receiver one, right? Like he is predicted to score 20 points per game. Like that's like a prediction for the future, like 20 points per game based off his PWOPR. And it's just not like you need like an elite quarterback to like sustain that, like to be able to sustain that level of legitimately elite play. Like that level of play is really good. And Chris Olave just hasn't gotten that this season. Even if he's still performing well, he's not performing like the model thinks he should be the wide receiver one. And until he fulfills something close to that, the models, he's going to keep showing up on this list, right? Even if he's like consistently getting 13 points a game or 15 points a game, if the model thinks he should be scoring 20 points a game, we're going to be seeing him a lot. Yeah.
So since somebody like Zay Flowers is on here and he has a bye week this week, right? Does that automatically carry over into next week now?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, it is absolutely something that I try to keep track of that. Honestly, I probably should do a better job with the bye weeks on this, but it is something where, like it's just math, right? Like it's just he should be scoring more than he is. He's about to get Lamar back. Like this is going to be an offense that is going to be scoring more than it has been. Absolutely all in on Zay Flowers, right? Like it is an all in for not this week, but next week.
Yeah. Jeudy, by the way, this week, 45.5 over under. All right. Jakobi Meyers is somebody who I have loved and caped for years, and he's been the ultimate wide receiver too. This year, it's been, a little sluggish, not great. Confidence in Jakobi Meyers. He's on this list, which is a good thing to see. But I mean, this offense has been tough. Gino's been a little hot and cold. How do we feel about Jakobi Meyers kind of moving forward?
And that's how, like, again, that's how you end up on this list. Like, if your quarterback can't fulfill your wide receiver needs, Jakobi Meyers still has the best PWOPR on his team, right, for the season. Like, over the last 3 weeks, he is still the PWOPR leader on this team. I do believe last week Trey Tucker had a better PWOPR. Trey Tucker's good, and I do think that he is stealing work from Jakobi Meyers in a lot of ways. I think Jakobi Meyers, he had all the contract issues in the offseason and everything. So I do think the Raiders, like, if they could, they would love to move on from him, right? Like they'd love to. But Jakobi Meyers he's getting open. He is very much still getting open. He's still good at football. And he's a player that I guess I would start. Like, I guess it depends on who you're starting him against, but he's a player that I think is very startable. He is, this matchup is pretty tough though. Like, the Chiefs are the best, like they have the third best PFF team coverage grade, and they have the fifth best team coverage rate against wide receivers. But, and this is what I try to always like keep in mind when you're hitting a tough matchup in theory, the more important thing is volume. And the Chiefs are an offense that is going to score a lot. They will probably have a lead. They're 11.5 point favorites against the Raiders. They're at home. They're probably going to be scoring, and the Raiders are going to need to keep up. The Raiders will probably come in with a game plan of like keep Mahomes off the field, yada, yada, yada.
Sure.
And it'll inevitably fail. Probably.
It'll last 3 drives.
Exactly.
You'll be down 17 points. And
then now it's time to throw it, right? Now it's time to air it out. And Jakobi Meyers has been getting open. And that's like, you couldn't ask for much more as far as like that's concerned. And even if the Chiefs are really good at defending wide receivers, well, defend it 40 times, right? Defend it, go against 40 pass attempts. And it doesn't really matter if he catches 10 balls for 70 yards, right?
Yeah.
So like you're still winning as a fantasy player at that point. So to me, like he's going into a scary matchup, but this is a matchup in which I think the Raiders could see a lot more pass volume because they're just behind the whole game.
Right. All right. And the last one on here, we got AJ Brown, which Devonta Smith has really been the Eagles receiver who, when on this list, has really done his thing for the most part. AJ Brown, I think, has been on here a few times. And one of the times he did, but I feel like when I see Devonta Smith on this list, I get excited. AJ Brown, not so much. So how do we feel about AJ this week? Is he somebody that if you had a better option, maybe you'd go with right now, or is he somebody that you'd stick with?
Yeah, at least this week in particular, this is a really tough matchup for AJ Brown. So AJ Brown is one of those players that when he sees single coverage or man coverage opportunities, he is like the best wide receiver in the NFL. He is up there as far as like an elite talent against man coverage and single coverage. But when he's seeing non-single coverage or more zone-based opportunities, he struggles quite a lot. And the Vikings have allowed the second least amount of single coverage on the entire season this year. Plus, they have a really bad run defense, and the Eagles want to run the ball. So this is a team like this matchup is like just catered towards really like Dallas Goedert, Devontae Smith in the passing game, and then a lot of Saquon Barkley. Like that's what this game I think is going to end up being. Like the Eagles have gotten hounded for not being able to run the ball. They had a bye week. They have extra days. I think they're going to come in and really try to attack this game on the ground against a team that isn't really great at defending the run.
Yeah.
And
they had the Thursday game, so that's kind of like
exactly. Right. Yeah. And so I think that like there's going to be less pass attempts in this game than we've seen over the last 2 weeks from the Eagles. And AJ Brown's not really in a good position to break out in a game like this. It's not that he can't break out, right? And that's really important as we're talking about these players. It's not that he can't. Right. It's just that the likelihood is less, right? Like Olave has a good matchup. He's going up against a team that runs a lot of man coverage. He is really good against man coverage.
They're missing their top corner.
They're missing their top corner. Like there's a lot of reasons to be like, okay, Olave is like the breakout can be facilitated. AJ Brown, on the other hand, is going up against a tough defense that's bad at defending the run, and they don't allow a lot of single coverage when they do like on pass plays, which are all three like knocks against AJ Brown for this week. So it's a play in which I'm still excited that he's on this list. Like that's still like he could still score a touchdown, right? He could still score 2 touchdowns.
Sure.
It's just I wouldn't be like leaning into like, oh, he's going to get a lot of receptions this week. Oh, he's going to get a lot of yards this week. It is like it's much more of a you're hoping he gets a touchdown this week more than anything.
Gotcha. It's the Saquon Barkley rushing total for this week right now is set at 69.5. That looks like maybe we want to touch the over.
I'd be very interested in some all overs on that. So,
well, I'm going to host the Bet On It show this week, so I'm sure we'll be talking about all sorts of all overs and whatnot. I'm excited to.
We will be. I
get
promise.
In there with you. So, let's say AJ Brown was somebody that you had, and then this guy, old Seymour, just came out of left field, and you had him on your bench. Would you play more over AJ Brown this week?
Well, that is a kind of a mean question. So Chris Moore, it's mind blowing. So I write 2 articles for PFF. One is Route Based Heroes, which is what we're discussing now, and the other is Coach I Was Open. And in Coach I Was Open, I specifically look at the previous week and I say who was open the most in terms of like their share of predicted targets and their share of predicted air yards. So who's getting open the most relative to their team and downfield the most? And Chris Moore like was wide receiver 2 behind Chris Olave, right? A lot of Chris's up here.
Woo.
Yeah, Chris Moore had like truly elite wide receiver 1 numbers last week. That doesn't mean he'll have it forever.
From the modeling standpoint.
From the modeling standpoint. Exactly. From my model saw what he put on the field and said, this is an elite wide receiver one, right? In that one game. It's just a one game sample size. That doesn't mean he'll do it forever. That doesn't mean anything like that. But if the Washington wide receivers are in a similar position, I think this is key. I actually spoke with someone in my Discord about this. If the Washington wide receivers are in a similar position, as in Terry McLaurin's not playing, Noah Brown's not playing, like if they're in a similar position, I am very interested in Chris Moore this week. I think that he had a fantastic game. I promise you, my model shows you, like, it gives you a hint as to what like coaches are looking at, right? The coaches are going to look back at the film and say, man, he was open a lot, and he was open downfield.
Yeah.
And they're going to attack.
He scored, right?
He did.
Yeah.
He had like a fine game.
Yeah.
And a lot
Great
of that was
matchup with Dallas this week too.
Exactly. So you are putting this wide receiver who has an awesome matchup, who had truly elite wide receiver one, like underlying numbers last week, against maybe the worst defense in football, right? Like or one of the worst defenses in football. And I mean, the key is does he get a similar situation? Right? Like, what is Terry McLaurin's health like? Right? What is Noah Brown like? Will he get a similar route share to what he had last
Terry this week?
Yeah, probably not. I'm not a doctor. I always say, like, I always like wait until the
play one on TV.
Yeah, exactly. So to me, Chris Moore is like, if he's in a similar situation, I'm actually probably more interested in Chris Moore. And I don't know how many people can say that out there.
Doggy.
I'm just saying he had like elite numbers. Like I think his share of predicted air yards was in the 60%, like 60%. That means he's getting 60% of the total share of deep routes, right? Yeah. Like he's running these valuable routes downfield and he's getting open. And now throw that against the worst defense in football, and you have a recipe, right? You definitely have a recipe.
Luke McCaffrey did it again. I'm just saying. Yeah, I think you're going to want to stash that guy. I've been saying it for a few weeks now. But yeah, so listen, if you have Chris Moore, who's obviously been around the league for a long time, an older wide receiver, a veteran, it really fits in with kind of what they're doing in Washington. They're playing a bad defense. Maybe you don't have the stones to put him in over A.J. Brown, but if you need a third wide receiver or a flex play, he's got a tremendous amount of upside.
Absolutely. And I think that like it's really interesting. So like the week before this, so not this week, but the week before, Deebo Samuel had like a lot of PWOPR as well, right? Like he was given a lot of like kind of schemed up targets from the Commanders. So I do think that there's a world where like Chris Moore and Deebo Samuel both kind of just have awesome games. Like this game could be an absolute shootout, especially with Washington having a really bad pass defense.
Right.
I'm just saying if I had Chris Moore and I was had a question
also coming into this last one banged up too.
Exactly. And so like that's where it's like if Deebo's still kind of questionable, he has a few questionable tags this week, and I'm just saying Chris Moore, I'd watch it.
I like it. I'd
watch out.
All right, let's take a peek at some other teams right now that our guys were curious with. We've kind of talked about the Bears on and off again. I feel like we've hurt some Colston Loveland people's feelings on this show for sure. But you know, we get a ton of like, hey, when's the Luther Burden thing going to happen? When is Zacchaeus going to get off the field? It was wet and rainy. They threw a ball to Zacchaeus. He dropped it. I think that was his first or second drop of the year. Look, but is there anything that you can gain from any Luther Burden from the models projections, whether it be PWOPR or any other stat that maybe tells you that there could be a shift coming, or that you'd probably need a trade or an injury to have Luther Burden see more? And I guess the second part of that question would be, you know, I think my eye test says Luther Burden is awesome. And I know that your B score in the offseason for rookie wide receivers, I believe, really like Luther Burden as well. So is there any hope that we get more Luther Burden this season? Because some people seem very convinced recently, and I don't really understand necessarily why. I think it personally stays more of the same. But anything you're seeing?
Hey guys, quick reminder. If you haven't signed up for the free Discord or the free Patreon, what are you waiting for? Click the link in the description.
Well, I would say that at least in week 6, right? So just specifically week 6, Luther Burden's PWOPR was not nearly as good as I thought it would be. I very much like prior to week 6, I was very much on the Luther Burden breakout train. I was like, play his alt overs, like let's do his alts. Like he hit all his alts, by the way. I was very big on Luther Burden alts this week, and he hit all those, but his route share was not great. His PWOPR, because of that, was not great, right? If you're not on the field, you don't have a lot of chance to earn PWOPR.
Sure.
And his route share was just not that great last week. Even though, so his predicted targets per route run, which is basically just kind of looking at this from like, how are you getting open on a per route basis, was similar to Roma Dunze. It was pretty good. Like that's like solid. Like they both had pretty solid ones. But he's just not getting a lot of routes. And the thing is that historically, over the course of a season, rookie wide receivers get more routes as the year goes on, right? Like that's just historical breakout trends. It's just kind of how it goes. So I would not be selling Luther Burden in any way, shape, or form. He's looked excellent when he's on the field. Yeah, it's just him getting on the field just isn't as common as maybe we would like at this point. Yeah, I do think that there's a world where he could absolutely break out. It's just we're not quite there yet, right? In week 6, he played phenomenally when he was on the field. He just wasn't on the field that much. Yeah. If he keeps doing that, they have to play him at some point.
Right. I mean, every time you see him and he gets some attention in a game, he looks really good. So to me, I just continue to shoveling as much buy low as I possibly can on Luther Burden in the time being. And if it takes a year, it takes a year. But I don't think you're going to come into year 2 with Zacchaeus being in front of Luther Burden in the. And
I would be kind of surprised if it ended the season that way. I just think that like historical trends say that like Luther Burden will be getting more snaps as the year goes on. I kind of hoped for more after the bye week. Like the rookie bye week bump is a real thing. Like it is mathematically proven. I hoped for a little bit more coming out of the bye week. And he did he got opportunity. He had some first quarter targets, which is something I don't think he's gotten a lot of previously. So it's like, I think there's some hope here, but it's definitely not as much hope as I think people wanted or me personally.
Right. But I think hold tight. Don't be discouraged. There's a small encouraging number, but not enough. Really seems inconclusive, essentially, to make a statement on the things that we're talking about right now.
Yeah, I would say that. I'd say that right now, when he's on the field, he's awesome. He just needs to get on the field more.
Yeah. All right. One of the other questions was Washington, but we did just cover Chris Moore, and we talked about Luke McCaffrey last week. Anything else you were kind of seeing from in the Washington ecosystem that would cause any concerns or be delighted outside of the Chris Moore?
I'd say the only thing, and I wouldn't say this is a cause for concern. I know you love Luke McCaffrey and everything, but they seem to be like really diligent on like designed, I guess, touchdowns. I don't even know what to call it. Like they come out and they're like, this is a designed play that we're going to get Luke McCaffrey a deep touchdown. Yeah. Right. He's not really getting a super high route share. His PWOPR really isn't that good. And that's because he's not on the field a ton. Right. Right. So I think that like, he's a player that I don't even know the right term for. I just think that like, it's a player that if he were to get more routes on the field as well, I think we could see more goodness from him. Right. But his PWOPR just wasn't great in week 6, and he still scored a touchdown. He still had an awesome game. So it's like, what do you do?
Okay. All right. I think the biggest one of the week was the Bucks. Obviously, they're down to wide receiver 4, 5, 6, and they're out. McMillan was out before the season even started, unfortunately. Yeah. So, what do you see as far as Bucks for at least next game, if not maybe a few games?
Yeah, I think that so Tez Johnson is a player that my models have loved in the past, right? Mm-hmm. He is such a tiny man and so good at football. But my models have loved him in the past, like talking like when he was coming out as a rookie and potential goodness each year, right? And now he's going to get a chance to be on the field a lot, right? He's going to be in the field quite a lot. And I think that this is an opportunity that we could see more from him. I'm pretty sure like good things could be coming for Tez Johnson if Baker doesn't hone in on his comfortable targets that he's just used to.
Yeah, but who would that be even at this point? That's really the, I think that's really the, Tez Johnson is going to be the sexy fun play because it's the splash play and everybody kind of remembers Tez for the most part. But like, is there any other, is Sterling Shepard the better play or like?
Well, yeah. So that's kind of where I was getting into with like familiarity, right? Like I do think that Baker likes targeting Sterling Shepard. I mean, forgive me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure they played together.
They sure did.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, I do think Sterling Shepard is that familiar target that Baker might hone in on, but they're going to have to play more than one wide receiver. And I think Tez Johnson's going to be out there quite a lot. And he's good at getting open. Like, that's the thing is like Tez Johnson is good at getting open, even though he's kind of small and he can do backflips and stuff. So I do think that like, if I'm thinking of this from a DFS perspective, I'm like, whoever's least owned out of the two is who I'm interested in.
Yeah.
I think these are two players that are kind of equally likely to have great games. Sterling Shepard has a little bit more familiarity with Baker, but Tez Johnson definitely has that kind of pizzazz, that skill set that getting open is important, and he's good at that. So even if he's small.
Right. No, I like the idea of Tez, and then, looking down the line here when it's Egbuka, McMillan, Tez Johnson has a chance to maybe be that other guy that could be in the rotation kind of with those guys, I think.
Yeah.
Kind of looking forward. So I see him as a potential nice little long-term scoop up here and some potential streamability here for a few weeks. And, who knows if Godwin, what his deal is and how healthy he is. And, Evans could get back on the field and come right back off the field at being a little bit older guy who's had some hamstring issues. So this could be a rest of the season thing really quickly.
Yeah, or a future season thing, right? Like,
right.
Especially really, like as Mike Evans is getting older and Chris Godwin's like a big question mark at this point with the health and his career. It's like, just saying, Tez Johnson, in my opinion, is not the worst player to have just stashed.
Yeah, no, I agree. That's what I was saying with like in the future when you're looking at Egbuka and Jalen McMillan, Tez seems like he could be, the third in that mix, right? Because Baker's, I think they're forever quarterback for a minute here, right?
Yeah, probably until he retires. Yeah, right. I don't think that he's going anywhere anytime soon.
Right, and this is a nice juicy matchup. The Lions are, I don't know if Branch is going to get suspended or not. I don't know if we've heard anything on that, but they're already down some key secondary players as well.
And the Lions, they love single coverage. Like we talking about single coverage with AJ Brown earlier, the Lions love single coverage. So finding players that are really good against man coverage, that are good at separating, which I definitely think Tez Johnson falls into that mix, is just interesting as a team that really likes to play cover one and really likes to, try to say our players are better than yours.
Right. So the other familiar target in there would be Cade Otton out of the 4 or 5 they're going to stick out there. Shepard and Otton are going to be the guys that he has any familiarity for the most part with. Tight end has not been a particularly fruitful position this week. Would Cade Otton be somebody you'd be interested in trotting out there this week?
Yeah, I mean, if you don't got anything better, I mean, I think that he is he's a player that like he's probably Baker. Yeah, he's the second most familiar target. I will say that the Lions, they generally play a lot of single coverage. They actually didn't last week. So this was one of the things I dug into. I think they were scared of Xavier Worthy, and I think they were scared of Tyquan Thornton. They played like the second least amount of single coverage last week.
They also came in a little banged up.
That too. And so you combine those, you're going against the Chiefs. They did not play a lot of single coverage, specifically last week. On the season, they've been playing a ton.
Yeah.
And so the question is will they kind of get back to that season trend, or are they going to continue to play a lot of zone like they did last week? And if they play a lot of zone, that's why Travis Kelce kind of cooked them last week, is because they were playing a little off coverage. They were playing zone. They were sitting back a little bit more than they typically do.
Yeah.
And I think that if they continue to do that, Cade Otton's a fantastic play because tight ends just shred non-single coverage. And I think Baker will target Cade Otton quite a lot if the Lions continue to play like they did the Chiefs.
Yeah. Which we'll see TBD because how could you know? But it is a less terrifying group, but you still have some injuries. So
yeah.
All right, let's end on this one and maybe we'll touch on the Patriots for a second if we have time. But I wanted to go back to the Colts because Alec Pierce is on the list a few times. He didn't make it back on the route-based heroes here. I was kind of hoping that he would. And we were kind of saying, hey, Alec Pierce, make sure you go pick up all the Alec Pierce, get him in the kicker, trade for, don't go do one-on-ones, but like pick him up. Are we seeing Alec Pierce's return to the field kind of pick up where he left off?
Yeah, absolutely. No, he's so it'll come out in my Coach I Was Open my Coach I Was Open article this week. But Alec Pierce actually leads the NFL in explosive routes, is what I call them. So these are high predicted air yard routes. So he is and getting open on those routes. So he is getting open on these high value routes, right? He's in like similar territory to like JSN as far as this is concerned, right? Him and JSN are at the top of this list. And these are routes that are just like super valuable for players to be running. They're how you get like 60-yard touchdowns. Like that's what these routes kind of become. And he currently leads the NFL. He's actually the only player in the NFL with above a 50% explosive route share. I think that's because a little bit because he was injured. He's, hasn't been running as many routes as some of the other players on this list.
Sure.
But that is like a super good sign. Like being able to run these kind of deep routes and get open on these is really good. I will say the matchup this week isn't really super favorable for him. The Chargers are pretty good at covering the deep middle of the field, deep ends of the field. They don't allow a lot of deep shots on them. They play a lot of zone coverage. This isn't a great matchup for Alec Pierce to break out by any means. Alec Pierce still does have the best PWOPR on the team, right? He still has the best PWOPR on the Colts. He has like the fourth share of predicted targets. That's the kind of tough part, but he leads them in share of predicted air yards. So he's like right in the mix as far as getting predicted targets. It's just he's running those routes really far downfield and getting these kind of explosive opportunities. Even if he's not getting the targets, he is downfield getting open. And I think that against, say, man coverages, that's way more likely to kind of fulfill itself. It's not that it can't happen this week, but he's the chance of him kind of breaking off some explosive plays is just lower against this kind of defense that's really good at kind of playing shell defense and preventing the big play.
Yeah. No, I like it. I love what I've been seeing from him. So he just continues to be somebody to please just keep hammering in trades if possible. When you don't need to. He's not a featured player in a trade necessarily just yet, but it's becoming more and more potentially like he might have to start being a more featured player in some trades here for your dynasty futures. Downs is potentially out with a concussion, gets one more guy off the field, and AD Mitchell, unfortunately.
If anything about the getting off the field, like I don't even think like Alec Pierce is kind of
no, he's there. He plays in the two.
I was going to say like he's like a player that like,
one less main target in three. I guess kind of.
I get you.
Right.
I was just saying like for people just to understand the idea, like Alec Pierce is one of those players that's like really, I guess siloed from like competition in a way on this team. His only real competition is AD Mitchell, and I think everyone hates him now. So, like even though AD Mitchell I think is really good,
agreed.
Everyone kind of hates him right now.
You should be grabbing AD Mitchell in trades too, just as throw-ins, because again, everybody hates him. I think he is a good receiver. Got a little growing pains and some things to figure out. Will he be in? Do they trade him? I don't know. Probably not. They'll probably hold on to him. They got to do something with Alec Pierce at the end of this season, right? But they've also kind of stumbled into a quarterback situation where it went from a situation where I don't know to like, okay, well now we might have a window here that's pretty solid. So, Pierce might return to this team. I don't know exactly what the Dimes contract entails.
Yeah. And Alec Pierce, like I will say he's basically the Jameson Williams in this offense in a lot of ways. Like and I would say he's at least this season on a per route basis, he's been better at getting open, right? Like further downfield. So like, this is a player, like that's how you have to think about this player, right? Like talking about the people at home, like you have to think of it like you're just getting another Jameson Williams, right? That's what he is. He's really good in certain matchups, and he's not going to ever be like the wide receiver one, I don't think, but he absolutely can be a wide receiver two that has these boom weeks that are going to win you some games, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. All right, let's wrap this one up. Joseph, tell us where we can find all your stuff and about the PFF articles one more time before we wrap this bad boy up.
Yeah, I'm. You can find me at Koala TY Stats on Twitter and on Substack. I write a weekly prediction article that I go through all the matchups. Like we're talking about these single coverage matchups, these zone matchups, everything like that. I go through and I write up like what players have an advantage going into this upcoming week. I use the the data I get from PFF. I write these articles for PFF. They come out on Friday mornings where I look back at the previous week and see who was open, who should have been getting more targets. And so far this week, it's been about 60% accurate, or so far this year, I should say, it's been about 60% accurate on predicting the wide receiver one, like not just a wide receiver one,
right?
The wide receiver one. And so like I write these articles for PFF. They're free. They're out there. I love it when people click on them because maybe they'll bring me back. But I really enjoy doing this. And, you can find my work at Substack and Twitter.
Yeah. Make sure you come check out all that stuff from Joseph. We've got extra stuff on the Patreon side of things, all for your pleasure, extra episodes, extra information, a Discord, also a free Discord. And then make sure you're checking out the Redraft channel because your boy's about to be on and popping over there. Excited to get back into the redraft streets a little bit here. So make sure you go check out FFD Fantasy on that side of things. Until next week, I'm Casey. He's Joseph. We'll see you.